Hello, everyone, and welcome to our vlog for today. Aligning is a practice. So, there is this misconception that I think a lot of us have been under. I know I was for a very long time. And that misconception is that you should just align with your higher self. You should just align with what you want. You should just align with happiness, align with joy, align with this, align with that. And it should just, that's it, you're done. You never have to do it again. And we will get to a point like that where we are fully embodied and aligned with our higher selves, with the vibration of joy, with the vibration of happiness, with our source. We will get there. However, we have not practiced that. What we have been practicing is more of the ego mentality, which is competition, guilt, blame, shame, attack, defense, and the list just goes on and on and on. And it's not that it's necessarily bad, it's just what we've been practicing. And there are those YouTube shorts, and I'm sure TikToks as well, and Instagram stories or reels, where you get to see how things have been worn out over time. And that's kind of what we've done. We have worn a groove into our minds because we have practiced this one way of thinking or seeing or believing in a consistent way. And so we've practiced it. It's comfortable. We know it. And then when we hear that we want to align with what is true, or we want to align with spirit, our higher selves, that activates something in us. That activates that truth, that like, yes, that is me. That is who I am. And we want to run over there. And the thing is, if you're anything like I am, you try to go from 0 to 100, or you just try to get it perfect. You try to like immerse yourself in it, and you just do it and do it and do it and do it and do it. And what we want to do is we don't want to necessarily do that, because then we get burnt out. Then we just kind of like, well, I'm not getting it. So, and I've immersed myself in it, enamored myself with it for a month or two. You know what? I'm done. And what we want to do is we really want to start small, because even though aligning with our higher self isn't new, it is different because we're not used to it. We've practiced another way of being. And so we don't want to go from, having judgments about others or ourselves to, I see you all as love and light and the joy of the universe, because we're not there. And that's okay. This is why we have to practice, because then once we practice this way of being, then it's going to become normal. It's going to become natural. It's going to become effortless. But there's this interim time that we're all in, where there's going to be some discomfort. There's going to be like, ooh, this is kind of weird. Like, and even this concept of like, am I doing this right? And we just want to let go of all of that. And so today, what I want to do is I just want to give you some simple, easy tips and techniques that you can begin to use to help you better align with your higher self. Instead of from 0 to 100, it's more like from 0 to 10. And I will give you a little bit more of an advanced step, which is like 0 to 15, or maybe even like 0 to 25, if you want to do that. But I want to preface all of this with, it's a practice. And that means daily commitment, moment by moment commitment to thinking in a new way. And it's not work. It's going to seem like work at first, because again, it's something new, it's something different, it's something that we're not used to doing, and that's okay. However, we're going to get better and better and better at it. Just like when you started riding a bike, when you started writing your name, when you started writing your address, memorizing your home phone number, like those are all things that were like, wow, this seems really hard. And I can even give you a better example. I'm currently in a tap dancing class, Beyond Beginner. And So we're still learning just, basic steps, but now we're putting combinations together. And I will tell you, she did that combination, the teacher did, and I just looked at her and was like, you want me to do that with my feet? Like, I don't know about that. However, I was open-minded. I was willing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try. And I tried. And, this week was spectacular. It was almost like, all the culmination of all the weeks had finally come together. And I was a tap dancing savant, or at least that's what I felt like. And because all the moves were coming easily and effortlessly. She said paradiddle, I did a paradiddle. She said cramp roll, I did a cramp roll. Well, we started to put things together and I started to get it. And I was just like, oh, this is so exciting because all that knowledge was coming together. And again, she didn't say, okay, first day of class, cramp roll, do it. She showed. And we did it again and again and again and again. And that's the whole point of this is it's a practice. And it will become, as easily and effortless as my tap dancing teacher, just stands in front of the mirror and she's like, doing her whole thing. And it's going to become that easy and effortless. And that's what's going to happen for all of us as we continue to practice. So let's get into the very first thing that you can begin to do to align with your higher self or start practicing that alignment with source. And it's the easiest thing. And your ego mind is going to jump in and be like, it can't be that easy, but I'm going to tell you that this is the first step. And it does make such a huge difference. And all you have to do, the first practice you can do, be present in the moment. That's it. Very first step, be present in the moment. And that can be you're walking down the hallway in your house and just being present. Maybe you're just washing the dishes. Be present with the water that's cascading down. Be aware of the sensation on your hands. Be aware of the plate. And you're just in that moment. You're not trying to think about what you need to do next or the next dish or the next thing. You are simply present in that moment. And you can do that for a walk. Like if you're just walking in nature, just be present with the nature. Just notice things. It's not about trying to be like, I am present and walking. It's just, and I got to keep track of my steps. Just pay attention. What's around you? What are you seeing? What's catching your attention? Just that's it. And then, as it catches your attention, oh, I see that. And then move on. So that's our first, and another great way to do this is just asking yourself, like, what am I doing right now? If you start to find yourself like kind of your mind wandering, which all of us are apt to do. And actually the Course in Miracles says you are much too apt to let your mind wander. So to kind of bring it back into the present moment, instead of going to the past or going to the future, which we know is an alignment with our ego, because that's where the ego lives. It lives in the past or it lives in the future. And only spirit, our higher self, our source, lives in this now moment. So what we want to do is we can say, okay, well, what am I doing right now? I'm washing the dishes. So I'm going to become aware again of just washing the dish. That's what I'm doing right here, right now. I'm walking my dog. I'm out for a walk in nature. I'm working on the computer. Just whatever it is, be as present as you can with it. The sensations, the feelings, just all of it, as much as you can be. And don't do it for a long period of time because, again, you're not used to it. 5-minute intervals, just 5 minutes of just being completely present. Set your timer. 5 minutes of just being present in the moment. And then, maybe you can ramp it up to 10 minutes. Then maybe you can ramp it up to 20 minutes. Maybe you can ramp it up to 30 minutes, an hour. And then it's just going to become easier and easier and easier. And you're going to get better and better and better at it, at staying present in that moment. And as you are present in that moment, that is when spirit can talk to you. That is when your source can inform you on steps that you need to take, or steps that could be taken, or nudges in right directions, because you're just present in that moment. You're not thinking about what you need to do or what you should have done. You're just, I'm here, I'm present, I'm available. So that's the first thing. The second way that we can begin to align with our spirit, our higher self, our source, is, again, simple and easy. an attitude of gratitude and appreciation. That's it. Just taking, again, 5 minutes out of your day, 5 minutes. If you can't take five, 1 minute, 2 minutes, like whatever you can do, take that time to just feel grateful. It's not, we don't want to just want to play lip service and be like, I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for air conditioning. I'm great. We want to feel that gratitude because that's going to help to connect us more fully, not only to the present moment, because we can only really be grateful and appreciative for that which, for that moment, for what we are seeing in front of us or what we are experiencing. So not only is it going to take us into that present moment, it's just going to help us to feel better and feel good and feel that attitude. And that's where we want to be. So again, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes out of your day to just feel that attitude of appreciation, that attitude of gratitude. And you're hearing me say, appreciation first, because appreciation to me is that higher step up from gratitude. And I only say that because think about gratitude, you're like, whoo, I'm grateful that's over. Where appreciation is, wow, like I really appreciate you coming to help me do this, or I really appreciate that this thing happened. You love. When you are in appreciation, you are in that attitude of love. But if we're not there yet, that's okay. Use gratitude. Like, I'm just grateful I got through that. I'm grateful that this worked out for me. I'm grateful that I was able to see this person, come home or whatever the case may be. So that's our second way. Our third way that we can begin to align with our higher self, our source, is again, very simple, very direct. And that is to begin to forgive. And again, that's going to sound like forgive. That sounds super easy. And forgiveness is easy because you have to understand when I say forgiveness, I'm not talking about the way that the world sees forgiveness. I'm talking about the way that I've learned forgiveness through A Course in Miracles. And that forgiveness is forgiving the idea. You're not necessarily forgiving what the person did or what the person said. You're forgiving the idea. And I know that sounds really weird. And here's the best way that I can begin to explain it. So when we talk about forgiveness, we can talk about it in 3 layers, 4 layers, technically. So the 0 layer is arrogance. I'm so spiritual, therefore I shall forgive you. That's not real forgiveness because you're just saying, I'm better than you, so I'm going to forgive you. So that's not real forgiveness. Then there is level 1 of forgiveness. So level 1, so 0, 1. So level 1 of forgiveness is arrogance. I will forgive you. And actually, we'll call that more this one more victimhood. I will forgive you, but I will never let you forget. Well, you didn't really forgive then because you're still replaying that situation again and again and again and again and again in your mind. So you never really are letting it go. You're never really forgiving it. You're constantly activating that idea, that situation, that past. And again, who lives in the past? It's not spirit. It's our ego. So then we have level 2. And this is where I think a lot of us are, including myself. I've only had 1 instance of level 3. But before we get to that, so level 2 is compassion. I see that you are in a bad place. I was in a bad place. You know what? I forgive you. Like, I just want to get on with my life. I want to get past this. So you're getting a little bit closer because you're at least loving, yourself, or you're loving that person. You're just like, you know what? Let's just get past this. Like, come on. But you're still not quite letting it go because you're still like, well, still kind of holding on to that past. Maybe you're saying, I want to get past this. I want to move on. I want to be happy, so forth, so on. But still in the back of your mind, you're kind of playing that situation, or you're playing that again. And then comes level 3. I forgive you because in truth, you have done nothing wrong. And I know, again, when you hear that, your ego is going to be like, oh, so I'm just supposed to condone what they did to me. That's not what level 3 of forgiveness is about. Level 3 of forgiveness is about setting yourself free by acknowledging, yes, this situation happened, this thing, I experienced this. No, that forgiveness is not taking that away from you. All forgiveness is simply asking of you is to acknowledge that whatever situation you went through did not stop you from being your source, did not stop your alignment with source, did not cut you off from your source, did not make you lose your innocence or any true part of you. That's all that forgiveness wants. It just says, okay, set yourself free from binding yourself to this particular story about that this, has now put a black mark on your soul, because no one and nothing can do that. You are, and these are just my words. And again, if the word God upsets you, and I understand, it upset me for a long time too. That's okay. You can just substitute it with source, but you are the divine child of God, free of all limits, safe, healed, whole, innocent, and provided for, free to forgive and free to save the world. You are changeless. You are exactly as the divine created you, the exact same amount of light, the exact same amount of love and joy and happiness. Nothing and no one can take that away from you. It is only our experiences that we go through that we kind of give that away to someone, to the experience, say, well, that took my innocence away from me. And we have to remember that our innocence doesn't live inside our bodies. Our innocence is what we are. And so that's what level 3 of forgiveness is. I forgive you because in truth, you did nothing wrong. So I forgive myself for believing that you are this, or that this happened in one way, shape, form, or another. And I'll give you this example. And because this is my one example of true forgiveness in my life that I have achieved thus far. And so I worked at KinderCare from the age of 18 to the age of 31. I'm now 37 or will be 37. And I worked there. I was Mr. Ron. Everybody knew me. Some stuff happened and I decided to leave. And I thought I had all of these friends, all of the, I had, my God, I had parent support at the wazoo. Okay. I mean, they were calling, checking up on me, but the people I worked with, the people I thought were my friends, the one person who I said was like my work wife, my work best, and then just became like one of my very best friends, went to their house, did clearings, did cleansings, took that, did readings for them, helped them move, did all these things. And not a call, not a text, nothing. And I felt so betrayed. I felt like my world had caved in and I was alone. And I was mad and I was depressed and I was sad and I was disappointed. And all I wanted I just wanted to see these people as terrible, as awful, as how could they do this to me? And what took that forgiveness? I forgive myself for seeing this person as less than a blessing in my life. I forgive myself for seeing this person as able to betray me. I forgive myself for believing in the idea of betrayal and the idea of, evil and hatred. I forgive myself for seeing them as less than whole. I forgive myself for seeing them as just a body. And I mean, it took me 6 months, but one day after that 6 months, I went over to Walmart just to go pick up some milk with my sister. And who do I see but that work best friend who I haven't seen or heard from? And we literally live like a mile down the road from each other. Never saw her until this day. Went in there and I did what I would normally do, bumped her, said, oh, excuse me. That was just something we would do, in the hall, just something funny. And she was like, oh, I'm so, and then she was like, she stopped. She's like, oh my gosh, it's you. And I was like, hey, how are you? And, we stood in the middle of the aisle, like in the, not in the middle of the aisle, but, off in the center where we weren't in anyone's way. And I had told my sister, who at the time was like 13, I was like, go pick up the milk and go look around a little bit. And, we talked for 20 minutes. At the end of the 20 minutes, gave that person a hug. They said, I love you. And I said, you know what? I love you too. And I really meant it. And I felt so at peace. I felt there wasn't any anger, animosity, nothing. It was just peace. And it felt so good. So, so good. And so that's what I mean by forgiveness. If you're just at level 2, that's okay. At least you're trying. But if you can get to level 3, great. You can use those same things that I said. I forgive myself for believing in the idea of betrayal. And I forgive myself for seeing this person as less than whole, less than the holy, precious child of God, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, innocent and provided for in all ways, free to forgive and free to save the world. And if you can't get there, that's okay. Forgive yourself for what you can at this point in time. So that's our third way of getting to align with our higher selves, that attitude of forgiveness. And you can, if you don't want to practice on like the big things, practice on the things in the present moment. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You know what? And again, we're not forgiving them for the action of cutting us off in traffic. We're forgiving ourselves for believing in the idea that anyone could be less than a blessing to us. We're forgiving ourselves for believing that the idea that people just don't know how to drive, forgiving ourselves for the idea that, this person is in a hurry and they think they're better than me, or whatever the case is, whatever thought comes up to you that is less than loving, forgive yourself. It's okay, because the divine isn't judging you. The divine has its attention on you and is flowing to you nothing but unconditional love. It just keeps on saying, I love you. 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 I still love you. And forgiveness helps us to tap into that love as well, into that stream of love. Now, if you want to take the supersonic highway, like I said, from maybe 0 to 25, instead of, going a mile down the road and then getting on the off ramp, maybe taking a little bit of a shortcut, I am going to say forgiveness, but also a judgment detox. And what is a judgment detox? That is where you just become aware, not judgmental of yourself, but you become aware of the judgments you have about other people, and you tell yourself, I am willing to protect their innocence. Now, what does that mean? So let's say that you have a friend who is perpetually late. They're always late. They're late for everything. You swear they'd be late for their own funeral. And right then, right there, that what we are doing is we are seeing them through a story that we have created about them based on experiences that we may have had with them in the past, and then kind of pulling that past into the future. And we're kind of seeing it in, quote unquote, the present moment. We're seeing that story unfold. And so if you want to go through that judgment detox about them, about yourself, about situations, that is definitely going to be a super highway to alignment, because what you're doing is you are acknowledging that you're telling yourself a story about this person, that you are seeing them based on maybe one experience or maybe multiple experiences, but you're willing to say, you know what, that's not the way I want to see them. Spirit, take this story from me and heal it for me. Help me to see the truth instead of this. Teach me to see the truth instead of this. I am willing. And that's all it takes, is a willingness and just an awareness, a discernment of, okay, I'm noticing that I'm seeing this person as less than loving or less than the divine perfect child. I see that, I acknowledge that, and you're not going to beat yourself up, and you're not trying to change it. And I want to make that so clear. You're not trying to change the outward appearance to make it pleasing to you. You are doing the one thing that you should, which is asking Spirit to heal that part of your mind. Your judgment is what is keeping it in place. The release of that judgment is what allows Spirit to show you a new and different way. And I'll even tell you another story, because I have tons of stories, because these are things, again, it's a practice, and these are the results of the practicing. When you are coming from that willingness to want to align with source and making it your commitment. And so, for a very long time, I saw my younger brother as someone who was just like self-centered, self-absorbed, and just like very greedy, like everything's mine type of thing. And again, lived with him my whole, half of my life. So that was the story I had. And so, he had gone, he had to come back home for a little bit to get back on his feet. And I was practicing that forgiveness. I wanted to see him differently. I was willing to, I wanted to. And again, it wasn't about wanting to see him different so he would behave differently. It was wanting to see the truth in him. That's what I wanted. And so I was willing, and I was just, forgiving myself, coming into the present moment, doing, being grateful and appreciative for what, just being grateful and appreciative, not even necessarily for anything about him, just in gratitude and appreciation. And forgiving myself for, there was something that he did that was upsetting me because of my judgment. And you can be sure if you're getting upset about what someone else is doing, and again, I'm not saying that, right, wrong type of thing. All I'm saying is if you are getting triggered by someone or what someone is doing, look back at you first. What must I believe in order for this to be happening? Ask yourself that question. Be sure of that question. Answer that question honestly. And then be willing to forgive yourself, because then you're letting go of that judgment. Well, I did that work 3 months. And then I had just gone out to the living room and I was just like, oh man, my headphones are dead. I have to get a new pair. And he's like, I already bought them. I said, what do you mean? Like, literally, he was just like on his phone. And then he was like, I just bought you some. I was like, oh, you didn't have to buy it. You didn't have to buy it for me. I already bought it. I was like, okay, great, thanks. Then I got an upgraded phone and I was like, oh, yay, exciting, woohoo. Because I had paid off my other one. So I got this free upgrade. I was so excited, but I didn't have a long enough cord. And I was like, oh man, he was like, well, I have extra cords here. You can have this one. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. And so and then, being willing to pay for things, paying for dinners, just like I was just beginning to see the truth of him, the truth of who all of us are, the giving, loving, kind, generous souls that each of us are. And that was beautiful. And it's still beautifully unfolding. And I am grateful for it each and every day. And so, again, if you want that, and that's going to help you align with your source because you're letting go of your stories, because that's all a judgment is, at least in my eyes. Your judgment is a story that you're telling yourself about a particular person, place, thing, or idea based on past experiences that you've had with them. And same thing with forgiveness. No one is saying that you have to go, if you forgive someone, doesn't mean that you have to have a conversation with them inside Walmart. It doesn't mean that you have to live with them. It doesn't even mean you have to go and like have a lunch with them. And that's not what forgiveness or, being judgment free is about. Because again, we're not trying to go from 0 to 100 or 0 to I'm completely aligned with my source, because we're not there yet. We have to practice that. And so these are just simple little things that you could begin to do to practice. And that's all it is. It's a practice. Practice as much as you can, as consistently as you can. And what I've given you is just a very brief framework. Whatever feels good to you, use. Find things that help you to feel happy, to feel aligned, to feel inspired, because that's another quick and easy way to get in alignment with source, because source is happiness, source is inspiration, source is joy and ecstasy and bliss beyond imagining. So begin to find those activities, those thoughts, those ideas, those behaviors that can begin to activate that in you. So I thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye for now.